Hello and welcome to the Doctor Who Present and Future panel. This is going to be a brief summary, a very opinionated summary of the 360th anniversary specials and then the new season of Doctor Who, which, to make things easier for the next time they reboot it, I suggest we go ahead and start ahead of the curve and call this era Old Who, the era before that Older Who, and the classic series Oldest Who. You know, just for the next time they reboot, we won't have to change the terminology again. So, when they announced Russell T Davies' return to the show, I was, let's say, cautiously optimistic. I had problems with the tropes of his era, but they were common with that era of television. You know, we had the mystery boxes, which were kind of started by Lost, that whole trend. Ken's broody, immortal shtick, where he was hung up on a girl like a fraction of his age, was very reminiscent of Twilight. That's why I call him the Twilight Doctor. So I was really curious to see what a modern Russell T Davies, with the trends of today's TV, would bring to the table. How has he evolved as a writer? What would he do this time around that would be different from before? Turns out not by much. So, we left off with the 13th Doctor regenerating into Tennant, along with her clothing, which was weird, right? It's not happened since the first Doctor regenerated to the second, and we can just kind of forgive that as early adaptation wonkiness. Early era wonkiness. But the fact that the clothes changed to me implied something more. We knew that the Celestial Toymaker was coming in. I had the theory, I don't know, who was here last year when I did the 60 years in 60 minutes panel? Is there anyone here? Oh, well, welcome back. So this is kind of a sequel to that panel, sort of. So I'm kind of picking up where I left off on that panel. So, 13 regenerated into 14, the clothing changed to. This was an unusual regeneration, made even stranger by the clothing change. We had this godlike entity we know was going to be coming in as the main villain for the specials. I thought, I had this theory that the Toymaker was the one who forced the Doctor to regenerate into an old face for whatever his game was going to be. Obviously, that's not what happened. The return of the Tennant face was posed as another mystery box. Why is the Tennant face back? The question that question was asked constantly throughout all three specials. And you know what? They never gave us a satisfying answer. There are fan theories, there's subtext, but it was never explicitly explained. Just so y'all know, this is going to have spoilers. If it's not already obvious, we're going to have spoilers for the specials and the season. So, we kick off with the Star Beast. It was an adaptation of a cult character from the Marvel UK comics. I don't know if you guys knew that. This was the Gulp Shido of the Doctor Who universe. I see you're confused by that expression. That's a term someone coined for a really obscure Star Wars characters, Gulp Shido. A typical Star Wars fan, oh my god, they're bringing in Gulp Shido! Mainstream guy, who the hell is Gulp Shido? It's that. So 14 shows up and it immediately goes into angst mode, dodging in it for no good reason, and then whining about how he doesn't know who he is anymore. Once he does meet up with the unit, we get the whole saying, I'm not saying it's destiny, but it's destiny thing with Donna Noble. Another Russell T Davies trope. He wants to have his cake and eat it too with predestination stuff. I don't believe in destiny, but it's totally destiny. We got that with Rose and Bad Wolf. We got that with Donna and the whole Dr. Donna thing. She had blue cars that she just happened to park right by the TARDIS in the Fat episode, where she reunites with Ted. Weird coincidences like that. That's never really satisfying explained, except it's kind of destiny, but it's not.
Yeah.
The Doctor talks about not being able to see Donna, then barges into her house immediately and proceeds to whip out his sonic and use it freely around her. Even though he's, saying, if she remembers me, she'll die, he's not hiding who he is around her. We get a one-off force field power that was never explained and even more bafflingly, seemingly never used again. But the Doctor and Donna get locked into the Beep's ship with a glass wall separating them. Apparently Beep the Meep bought their ship from the same designer who made the Chompers in Galaxy Quest. This episode was badly written! Whoever wrote this episode should die! There's going to be a lot of nerd references in this. If they go over your head, that's fine. You know, no shame. We're all friends here. This is a safe space. But you should totally watch Galaxy Quest. So the Doctor unlocks Donna's memories, and we get a glorious rant that only Donna Noble could provide. That was the moment that really made me smile. Tennant and Donna's return, or I guess Tennant and Donna's return, total fan service, shameless fan service. But you know what? Sometimes that's okay. As long as a franchise doesn't feed into it and become nothing but fan service, a little fan service once in a while as a treat is okay. And I think I said Donna's my favorite companion, so just having her back and having her shitty story, her shitty ending undone so that she can have a better ending, I am okay with. But then we get an explanation for why the meta-crisis doesn't kill her, and it's a big hand-wavy cheat. One I'm willing to forgive if it means getting a character we love back. And there was that line from Donna's trans daughter about the time, kind of excoriating the Time Lord for using pronouns and being a male-presenting Time Lord and not understanding that was just kind of cringe. Like, you can tell Russell T Davies is trying to be politically correct, but he doesn't quite know what he's doing there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a cisgender white male. I can't really speak for the LGBTQ audience. I tried to have a friend of mine who is on the panel. They couldn't make it. But all the reactions I saw on Twitter, at least, from the LGBT community, even they were saying that line was just cringe. So we get to Wild Blue Yonder. It's more of a bottle episode, creepy vibes abounding. It reminded me strongly of the episode Midnight and of the audio play Scherzo, which is a masterpiece of Doctor Who horror. If you guys, who's aware of Big Finish? Have you at least heard of Big Finish? Okay, 2 hands. Have you listened to Big Finish? Okay, so look up Scherzo. It's one of the older ones, so it's pretty cheap for download on the Big Finish website. It's the Doctor and his 8th Doctor and his companion Charlie trapped in a literal bottle inside a universe with no time, and it's basically a deconstruction of the whole Doctor and companion dynamic. The Doctor talks about why he has Charlie around, why it's bad for him. It's beautiful character storytelling, and it'll creep you the hell out. It is great. But anyway, you could tell Wild Blue Yonder was trying to be a little bit like that, but it still was very much a TV episode. It's more of a character piece than an action piece, and even addressed the leftover remnants of the Chibnall era, like the flux and the childless child nonsense. I am not a fan of those, but they are here. We might as well do something with them. Chibnall introduced these retcons and changes just for the sake of putting his name on the brand, I believe, saying that he did something to Doctor Who, but he didn't actually do anything with it. So, why? What's the point then? So if a writer can come along and actually do something with these retcons, I still don't like them, but at least something will have been done with them. So far they've just been addressed, said yes, we're acknowledging this stuff, but still, I'm still waiting for them to actually do something with the whole timeless child. But anyway, it's a really great, I really can't say much aside from the fact that it's a really great character piece with the Doctor and Donna. More than that, it's just I'm basically giving a synopsis of the episode, because the story isn't really so much the point as it is the character work in it. It's a good story, but nothing really unique or special. Then we get to the giggle, where the House of Cards RTD had set up came collapsing. Neil Patrick Harris is a great guest star. It was a great catch for Doctor Who, and he really hands it up as the Celestial Toymaker. He's a lot of fun to watch. And again, we're reminded of the question, why did the Tennant face come back? But it wasn't the Toymaker. It never actually got answered. And then we get to the bi-generation. Y'all have seen that scene, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Be prepared for my face palming a lot, okay? The stupid, bloody bi-generation.
Yes.
Even Russell T Davies doesn't even bother to explain it properly. Is the Doctor summoning his future self in, like the Fourth Doctor did when he regenerated in 5 and he had that Stranger Phantom thing projection following him around for a while? Is that what it was? Or did the Doctor really split like a tapeworm into two separate but equal entities? Like, it's not properly explained. It's hinted that 15 is actually the future version of 14 because he talks about going through some therapy as 14 and being better because of it. But how? Why? What? And if they are tapewormed now in two separate Doctors, that makes the Doctor less special because now there's two of them in the universe. Two entities that are equally just as much the Doctor. Now, other science fiction franchises have done that before, but they're not really shows that revolve around a singular character. And usually it's done to kind of... I've seen like comedies do this. You know, you get the two entities that are split into separate personalities, or one is way more charismatic and better than the other, like Arnold Judas Rimmer versus Ace Rimmer from Red Dwarf. Was anyone here a Red Dwarf fan?
It's been a while.
Okay, one person. Okay, the rest of you watch Red Dwarf. It's cold outside. There's no kind of atmosphere. I'm all alone, more or less. So I do prefer the theory that 15 was a future incarnation of 14 that was summoned into the present. But that will mean that we never actually get to see the actual regeneration of 14 into 15. I think it was at this point that my optimism for the Russell T Davies doing something different theory completely deflated. Journey's End had climaxed in a very similar, the fourth season finale climaxed in a very similar way to the first season climax, Parting of Ways, where the where the companion gets Deus Ex Machina powers and destroys the Daleks with them. And they were also the whole led by fate thing towards those powers. So the villains, so those two finales, the fourth season finale was very similar to the first season finale. And now things have come full circle again because just like he did with Rose, Russell T Davies retires Donna with her own personal David Tennant duplicate. Russell T Davies is the Oprah of David Tennants. You get a David Tennant. Everyone gets a David Tennant. I expect that to happen in the 70th anniversary. Heck, we even have a repeat of the mysterious hand of somebody off screen reaching to pick up a piece of golden bling containing the Master's essence and the Master's echoing laughters happening on screen. If I had a nickel for every time that happened, I would have 2 nickels, but it's weird that it happened twice. So that was the 60th anniversary special, so the big, grand celebration of 6 decades of Doctor Who lore was just a repeat of one specific era. So then we get into the supposed full relaunch of Doctor Who, the introduction to Doctor Who for the Disney mass media crowd with the next Christmas special, which contained goblins singing about eating babies. Who is this for? I mean, no shame if that's how you got into it, but like, I am shocked that this is the way they're trying to introduce Doctor Who to new fans. I'll stick a pin in that. I'll save that rant for a little later before I get ahead of myself. I will say, Ncuti Gatwa hit the ground running as a joyous, exuberant incarnation of the character with a bit of a sassy side. But that musical number. Okay, I don't want to waste half the panel going like this, so I better move on.
No better than the twist at the end.
We'll get to that.
Oh dear.
By the way, if anyone has comments, if they have a quick comment they'd like to make during the panel, as long as you're not talking over me or not letting me go on, because I do have an outline, I want to get through the whole panel, but I am open to the occasional brief comment from the audience, okay? So if you have participation, that's what it's for. I enjoy talking about Doctor Who at this point, I think, more than I do watching the show itself. So anyway, in the Christmas special, we're also introduced to Ruby Sunday and her various mystery boxes in lieu of characterization. She really does feel like an AI-generated composite of all the new Who companions who have come before. Now in Rose, the titular character we were introduced with, was working a meaningless retail job. She's got a boyfriend she doesn't seem all that into. She's got something missing in her life that is clearly shown. She's not fully, she's going through the motions in life. Ruby we see partying, hanging out with friends. She talks about wanting to meet her mom, but she says it's not really, she doesn't really feel like her life is incomplete without her. She just wants to you know, she's curious, but it's not the question that's driving her life. She loves her actual actual adoptive mother. She loves her family, and as Ncuti Gatwa explicitly explains to her later, he can't be the one to take her back in time to find out who her mother is. He can't do that for her. So that's not a motivation for her riding in the TARDIS. She just kind of gets aboard and that's it, you know. She's curious. I can understand her curiosity when she first steps into the TARDIS. You know, the Doctor says a bunch of weird stuff. She wants to know what's going on, and then he takes her for a ride and offers her the key. And like, okay, but why? Like, what's in it for you? I mean, I get wanting to go on adventures, especially if you're 19 and young. And not pushing 40 like I am, and having already developed big bad knees. But what Rose was trying to escape her crappy life. Martha was trying to escape her crappy family. Donna had felt like she was missing out on so much. Amy was obsessed with the Doctor because he bumped into her as a child. Clara, well, the Doctor kind of conscripted her because of the weird, you know, impossible girl thing. He kind of made her a deal that she couldn't refuse. All of these companions have very clear motivations for why they get aboard the TARDIS, why they're riding in the TARDIS. I never felt that with Ruby Sunday. I realize I'm coming off a lot more critical than I wanted to be. I wanted to like this season. I apologize that I'm coming off as a whiny fanboy here. But I feel like, as a writer myself, I've written a werewolf novel. I haven't gotten it published yet, aside from a short story and an anthology novel. Dissecting the things that we don't like in media, as long as we're doing it analytically and not just whining, can make us better creators ourselves. You know, if we articulate why something doesn't work for us, we can avoid those pitfalls in our own art. If that makes sense. You know, I'm not approaching this as, you know, I'm whining because the show isn't doing things I like. I'm dissecting the things I don't like and trying to figure out why I don't like them, because I think it makes myself a better writer and a better person. So the anniversaries were about fan service to bring in the old. Oh wait, I already went on that rant. Okay. The anniversary specials were about fan service to bring the old fans back. The Christmas special was a tradition. No one really expects those to be anything more than just plain old panto. I don't know if you've heard the term panto. It's campy British theater kind of thing. But Space Babies was the official launch of a new era to bring in a whole new generation of fans. Creepy CGI talking babies, a mucus monster, and a giant fart at the end. That's how they expect to bring in new fans. Again, is it working? Who is this for? Little kids, yeah, little kids will like the giant fart at the end, but Oh, hi, Daniel. Hell of a sentence for you to walk in on.
What did I do this time?
Oh, you weren't even listening. Never mind.
No, are the walkie-talkie so deep in my ear that I can hardly hear anything.
Oh, okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dan.
Hi, Dan.
We might cut this part out of the video.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's fine.
So I will say, Shooty and Millie have really excellent chemistry. They are both very charismatic actors, and they bounce off each other really well, and they're fun to watch. But as characters, they're falling flat because Russell T Davies is relying too much on their chemistry as actors and not writing the characters as doing the legwork to develop that relationship. Like, he gives her with every other companion, the Doctor has waited a while before giving them a key to the TARDIS, and it's always felt like a big deal, a ceremony. At the end of Space Babies, yeah, here's a key for you. Okay? Okay. The Doctor and Ruby's relationship feels so fast-tracked that they even do this weird 6-month time skip to a point where they've known each other a while, rather than spend that time developing them in their early months. You never have a moment where Ruby questions the Doctor, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? One of my favorite moments for Bill Potts is when the 12th Doctor lets that little boy fall into the ice, because he can't really save him, but he uses that as a way to try to prevent anyone else from getting sucked up by the monsters under the ice. And Bill's like, what the hell are you doing? Save that kid. And it's this really intense moment you don't see coming from Bill, who's up to this point been a little on the silly side, and it's a great character moment. You never get that moment from Ruby. She's going along with what the Doctor says at all times. She's not questioning him at any point. We never get that scene where she goes, what the hell did I just sign up for? You know? Even the phone scene in Space Babies feels like a Wish.com version of the phone scene in The End of the World, where the Doctor upgrades the companion's phone and tells her to call her mom back home. When Rose does it, it's this very poignant moment where she's like realizing the existential horror that she's billions of years in the future. Her mom is dead down there somewhere on Earth, but he calls her up to reassure her that she's still going to live her life. Again, the scene where Ruby calls her mom, it just feels like a hollow imitation of that. Russell T Davies is just repeating himself, going through the motions. Oh yeah, and there's this one line that bugged me in Space Babies where he says, where the 15 says, there's no one like me in the whole wide universe to one of the babies, except for the previous incarnation who's currently crashing on Donna Noble's couch. And also, why exactly didn't the Doctor take the babies into the TARDIS to the refugee planet as they originally planned, but instead use the dirty divers to launch them into space at sublight speeds towards the planet? Those kids are going to be dead of old age long before that ship's reached the refugee planet. Dirty diapers aren't a good fuel for faster-than-light travel. Devil's Cord dropped to the same time as Space Babies, I'm thinking because they figured that wasn't a strong enough opening, so we got the 2 episodes back to back. It was remarkably better, but still not a promising start to this new era. For supposedly a Beatles tribute episode, the Beatles actually barely cameoed in this story. Maestro, I can never say that. Maestro, I can never say that word properly. The Maestro was a fun villain, but their sinister plot doesn't make any sense. Why would a god of music wipe out all life that would create music? You get this thing about background noise is music, but that's just one source of sound. Why limit yourself to one source when all life that creates music can create more sound? It's kind of, shooting yourself in the foot there, I think. If music was suddenly taboo and no one was listening to it, why would there still even be a recording industry 40 years after the Maestro showed up? No one would even be buying music to support an industry if music was verboten. It's an episode that definitely could have used a few more returns to the drafting board, I feel. It had a good core concept, just needed a few revisions. You're kind of making faces. You have some thoughts.
Me?
Yeah, I'm calling you out.
Oh, yeah. I'm just mostly saying I'm mostly saying those are really good points. I'm guessing maybe like it's supposed to be like the dregs or like just a very niche thing music, but I'm not sure how well that got conveyed, and
Well-
if that is even what they were going for.
Yeah, no, it really wasn't. Because like I said, the music studio was still shown as busy. Like if it were like a dregs or a low budget industry, it would be more. I would imagine it would be like a much smaller, grungier place without any staff working in the background. Oh, someone walked out. I guess they don't like my opinions. No worries. It's all good.
Music too much.
Yeah.
So, now we get to Boom, which is the concentrated dose of Moffatisms. But you know what? It's been a while since we had those, and damn if I didn't enjoy the nostalgia burst there. The story is tight, it's well-paced, it's a very unique type of bottle episode, basically just the one set. One bit of weirdness, though, is the comment that this is Ruby's first trip to another planet, which is weird if she's been traveling with the Doctor for 6 months. You know, you get these weird little continuity gaps. There's a theory that these episodes were aired out of their original intended order. Kind of would kind of explain some weird little details like that. Otherwise, it had just been Russell T Davies just wasn't being tight on the continuity of the scripts, you know. This is the episode I would rate second best of the season. We'll get to which one I think is best soon. 73 yards. That's a controversial one. This one is very subjective, based on on personal preferences and story types. It's a very atmospheric but less thought out version of Turn Left, the alternate universe Donna Noble story. You know, the bug on her back. It feels like they're trying to do that, but not as well, because that had a very clear and explicit explanation for why this all was happening, whereas the explanation we get at the end of the episode, things happen just because they happened. There's really no mechanic to cause a weird rupture in space and time that would create a time loop future version of Ruby showing up to change her life, and it happens because it happened. To me, that's not a satisfying answer. I've seen other people who enjoyed the episode because it had a good atmosphere, and I'll give them that. But for someone who likes world building and likes mechanics that explain things in their storytelling, it's not satisfying at all. One thing I absolutely hated about this episode, and I will not hear defenses of it, is the scene with Ruby's mom. So we've only seen Ruby's mom for a couple episodes right now so far, and they want to build their love as the love between the mom and daughter is this unconditional thing that has nothing to do with blood. You know, she loves her even though she's adopted, and it's a great bond. So why in like her only second or third appearance do we get her disowning Ruby and saying horrible, unforgivable things? The only reason that I think people let it pass is because it's an alternate timeline, wound up not happening. But the audience remembers those things she said, and like, holy hell, the way she treated Ruby in that episode were unforgivable. I don't care whatever that future witch lady incarnation thing was saying to her. Like, you can't expect us to accept their relationship as mother and daughter as unflappable if we see the relationship flap. The fact that she would cut her off and say those things, it doesn't work for me. It flies in the face of everything that they've said they wanted us to believe about this relationship up to this point. So now we get to Dot and Bubble, which is my favorite episode of the season. It's a very Dr. Light story, two episodes in this season in a row, in an only 8-episode season, so that's basically 1/4 of this season of Doctor Who with barely any Doctor in it. We'll get to that later. Nevertheless, it somehow only manages to be the only episode in this season that I personally would rank as great, because it's doing something different, it's doing something new. It's very high concept, it's very old-fashioned speculative science fiction, you know, classic science fiction is all about taking an idea of the modern world and flinging it out to its greatest extreme. You know, we get the what ifs of social media. How will it mold society in the future? And that in and of itself is a great concept, great thing to explore. Social media right now is molding society in ways that people 100 years ago couldn't even imagine. And who knows? It could cause our society in the future to evolve or devolve. We're just waiting. We can only wait and see. This is a great exploration of what social media, the harm it can do to society ultimately. And it's not saying social media is bad. The message is, you know, could be a potential future for us if we're not more careful. And it's got a great twist at the end that recontextualizes half the lines of the point of view character in this episode, who does such a great job of playing someone despicable even before you know the truth about her. Like, this is my favorite episode of Doctor Who in a long while. This was some good stuff, and I just wish the rest of the season could have kept up this pace, kept up that standard. Rogue is very hard for me to judge fairly, because I straight up don't care for the Doctor being romantic. And it's not about the fact that it's another man. I was not a fan of the Rose ship. I was not a fan of the River Song ship either. I can kind of give the character of the Doctor a pass with Rose because he's reeling from the PTSD of the Time War. He's dealing with the loss of his people. He's off kilter. He's making is explicitly making some very irrational decisions, you know. Again, you know, I compared his relationship to Twilight earlier, and I stand by that. The River Song relationship, well, first of all, Alex Kingston's got the charisma to really sell that. You know, on paper, River Song, I believe, is one of the merriest Sue characters to ever marry Sue. But Alex Kingston really has the charisma to be fun on screen, even though the writing of the character is a little weird. You had a comment?
She is a very lovely woman. I met her.
Oh, so did I at Phoenix Comic-Con a couple of years ago. She's awesome, definitely. And the way she plays it doesn't matter the incarnation she's playing against. She's great with them all. But anyway, this is just personal preference. I prefer the Doctor as Space Grandpa more than Space Captain Kirk. Time travel Captain Kirk. Time travel Casanova, time travel Captain Kirk, it's just not what I personally like in the Doctor. You know, the Doctor when he first shows up 60 years ago, he's a grandfather. He's always been a patriarchal figure, and I don't mean that in the modern negative way. He's a character who takes younger humans under his wing and molds them and makes them better. So to have him get romantic with a human is a little weird for me. He's old enough to be this guy's great 20 minutes later, great grandfather. Also, Rose and River, I'll give him that it was more slow burn. It was developed gradually. This guy just starts flirting with Rogue like that. And at the end of the episode, Rogue's lost to another dimension, and he's like, oh well, and just kind of walks off. We were expected to believe that this was a romantic pairing when they only knew each other 20 minutes and the Doctor doesn't even care to go looking for him after he's lost. Yes.
Him and the Master had more chemistry than that.
I hate that you're right.
Yeah. That's fair.
I hate that you're right. The villains of the week of that episode, while they were an interesting idea on paper, totally lost me the moment one of them went on their villain monologue about how they're going to conquer the world. And it's like, you all know each other. You all know the plan already. Why are you expositing it? I'm driving you nuts, aren't I?
No.
But that's always been the problem with historical alien invasion episodes in particular. I was talking to you about that earlier. We know if there's an alien invasion in the present, you know, sometimes the aliens might learn to live on Earth in harmony with the humans, like the Zygons. Or if it's in the future, you know, anything can happen in the future. If the aliens invade in the past, we know how that's going to play out.
Yes, fixed points in time.
Yes, fixed points in time. Nothing's good. They're not going to rewrite history of on the show. So, like, anytime there's an alien invasion in the past, we know how it's going to end. That completely loses all dramatic weight to it, in my opinion. Everything I say, for the record, is my opinion. I am not presenting my opinions as objective facts here. Okay? So, wow, we're at the season finale already. Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empire of Death. This really was a short season, with only 6 episodes actually have the Doctor in it.
Yeah.
So, before we get into the actual episode, let's start by summing up all the mystery boxes we have so far. He Who Waits, Beep the Meat's Boss, Mrs. Flood, Ruby's Mom. The moment Ruby's mom left the baby changed to have her pointing at something. Ruby's Snow and the music from that night, and the Susan Twist cameos. That's a lot.
Yeah.
What makes a mystery story is that the narrative is supposed to drop clues and challenge the reader/viewer to figure it out as they go. Mystery boxes don't do that. They pose a question and then just drop the answer later. What is the smoke monster in Lost? Just some asshole. Who raised parents in The Force Awakens? That question never got answered, ever. What is the bad wolf? Rose pulls a literal Deus Ex Machina. What is Torchwood? Slutty Men in Black. Who is Harold Saxon? It's the Master. Who is Missy? It's the Master.
We love the Master.
There's never any clues, just reminders that the box exists. It's not a puzzle, it's not a challenge. So IP owners and showrunners expect audiences to speculate and generate online buzz but all the audiences can do is guess wildly. There's no educated guesses, there's no real mystery to solve, there's no puzzle to figure out, and at this point mystery boxes just turn me off. We'll get the answer in a few weeks regardless of what happens. I can wait. I'm not going to waste my time. No, it's actually the Master again. You don't know what you're saying. No, it's just a waste of time, you know? So Russell T Davies doubling down and cramming in as many mystery boxes as he can is just annoying me rather than engaging me this season. Especially because this season we've hardly gotten any quiet moments inside the TARDIS. There's been, we usually have the opening episode with the setting, the TARDIS materializes and the Doctor and Ruby step out. There's not really any scenes where they're coming out of the TARDIS and talking about their adventures. There's no the episodes almost always end with them stepping into the TARDIS. We don't even, and roll credits. We're not seeing them stop and talk and ruminate and develop their relationship. Instead, we've got mystery box, mystery box, mystery box, mystery box, mystery box. Even 15's relationship with Ruby is all apparently developed off screen in a random 6-month time skip in the Devil's Court. From the audience's point of view, they're instant Bessies with no learning curve, no growing pains. So the Doctor goes to unit. Okay, now we're getting ran over. We're going into the actual synopsis of the episode. The Doctor goes to unit about Susan Twist. Somehow makes the leap of logic that Ruby's mom mystery box is tied in, even though there's really no reason why he would suspect those things have anything to do with each other. He just makes that assumption because the narrative demands it.
What is going on?
Perfect for the finale. Who let the dogs out?
Who let the dog? Yes, there is. Yes. So he goes to Unit's time window tech to glimpse into the moment. There's some mugging for the camera, but for some reason they can't see her mom under the cloak that she wore in 2004. Was Ruby's mom a Rennie?
Yes.
Yeah, probably. Like that's the only way she would get a cloak at this day and age. Long story short, the first part is just build up to reveal who waits. It was Sutek, who had been clinging to the TARDIS since the 4th Doctor's era, waiting through all the times the TARDIS was blown up, shrunk, abandoned, the flux, etc. It's a needless retcon that just raises more questions than answers, when Russell T Davies could have just as easily have said that he latched on during the events of, say, Wild Blue Yonder. Like, all those times that the TARDIS, he could have leapt into action, he didn't. He just waited till this moment in time for some reason. Part 2 opens with him actually wiping out the universe, and again, as soon as something of that scale is done, you immediately know it's going to be completely undone. So, again, right off the bat, the dramatic stakes have been completely fumbled. But the how, it's undone. Stick a pin in that. Sutek spares the Doctor and Ruby because for some reason he cares who Ruby's mom is and wants the answer too. 15 and Ruby travel to the future for the information. They're captured and then Ruby ties a dog leash. A dog leash. A dog leash to Sutek's collar. And they drag Sutek into the time vortex to kill him. You know, the same time vortex that powered him up and ascended him to God tier powers in the first place?
Yeah.
Cold is not an opposite force to hot, it is the absence of heat energy. Dark is not an opposing force to light, it is the absence of light. Death is not an opposing force to life, it is the lack of life, it is entropy. You can't bring death to death and suddenly everything comes back to life. Two negatives don't create a positive. Sutek wasn't actively imposing a force on the universe that was somehow holding life back, and removing it would suddenly allow life to come springing back. It was just such a lazy, rushed way of undoing something that shouldn't have even been done in the first place. A friend of mine, is anyone here a fan of Discworld? Terry Pratchett? Obviously. Okay. So in the Discworld series, it's a fantasy spoof, brilliantly written. Terry Pratchett is one of the greatest authors of the modern time, in my opinion. Although I would argue that's objective fact. He has the power of belief magic in his universe, the Discworld. But Pratchett baked that into his own sandbox from the very beginning. You can't have a wish fulfillment magic plot devices suddenly be a thing in a fiction that has been science fiction for the last 60 years. You're jumping a shark in a franchise that had very little shark to jump in the first place. Discworld is cake through and through. It is magic, belief, fantasy, from the core outward. You put magic, belief, fantasy onto a science fiction premise, you're putting frosting on a quiche. And with the power of belief or assumption literally used to hand-wave the mystery boxes, to quote Deadpool, well, that's just lazy writing. So my final thoughts on the season. Church on Ruby Road showed us a Doctor who is carefree and well-adjusted. But the 15th Doctor is supposed to be the result of 14's therapy, which was all done off-screen. That means we never get to see the Doctor organically grow into this version of himself. Themself. With the radical changes to the character being more emotionally and even more romantically declined, it's a jarring disconnect. 2 of the 8 episodes we got barely even featured this Doctor. Ultimately, to me, as much as I like Shutigatwa, 15 doesn't really feel like the Doctor yet. I'm hoping that will change. And yes, I'm going to address the crying really quickly. You know, there's nothing wrong with seeing a grown man cry. I do not believe in that whole toxic masculinity thing. I've seen where that leads with my grandfather. But really, I feel that the crying should have been saved for the biggest and most dramatic moments. When it happens every episode, it loses the emotional impact. If it's happening every episode, it doesn't make the Doctor look well-adjusted. It's quite the opposite. It makes him look weak and simpering. And again, I don't think he has to be John McClane, but I would like to see a Doctor, if they're talking about this Doctor being emotionally adjusted, I would like to see him actually be emotionally well-adjusted and not just every 5 minutes, drop the hat.
Honestly, I wish they would have shown his healing process.
Yeah, if we had actually seen the character development rather than skipping over that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to be clear, I'm not saying hashtag not my Doctor. I'm just saying Ncuti is carrying the role on charisma alone because the writing just isn't up to par for him. And I realize I said that about the 13th Doctor too. I wanted to like Jodie Whittaker. I think she definitely had the acting chops. The writing just didn't serve her well. They wrote her doctor more as a woman than as the doctor often.
Same thing with the 8th Doctor, in my opinion. It was kind of messed up in the fight.
Which version? The audio plays, the comics, or the
The
TV
movie version.
Okay, well, if you want to rant about that later, I'm going to make a Dr. fanboy myself, but that's a discussion for a whole nother panel. Maybe next year. Ultimately, Series 14, Season 1, whatever the heck you want to call it, it felt lazy and sauceless. Kudos to you if you liked it. I'm not saying you're wrong for liking it, but as a fan who's been around who's been watching the show for decades at this point, and knows the show needs reinvention once in a while, I feel like they tweaked the wrong elements. They're sticking to the formulas that they should have reinvented, and reinventing the things that didn't need to be tweaked. Honestly, I would prefer, I'll take Moffat's predilection for paradoxes and closed time loops whenever he writes himself into a corner, over Russell T Davies using the power of wishful thinking to save the day. Our time's about up, so we got about 5 minutes for any more comments or questions, or if you just want to scream at me that you're wrong, I can take it. I'm a big one.
The Master is the best character. There you go, that's my comment.
Hot take. Yes.
Just curious, do you like an overarching story that spans multiple episodes personally, or do you like those individual, really well done episodes that wrap up the story?
So I think Doctor Who has done well there, whereas you have the individual stories, but it's building up in the background to an overall arching thing. I wish that they didn't do that every season because it, again, makes it formulaic. But once in a while you have this entity in the background that shows up at the end, a looming threat, a build-up, or a conundrum that doesn't get solved to the finale while they're doing what they normally do. That's honestly, I think, the way to do TV these days, or at least a show like Doctor Who.
Who do you think Mrs. Flood is?
I don't care. Again, it's a mystery box. There's no actual clues. I don't give a shit about Mrs. Flood.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
What, if you could change like one thing about like, the 60th anniversary specials or this season 1, what would be the most important thing to change?
So for the 60th anniversary specials, we actually should have gotten a multi-doctor story like every other decade has had. We don't necessarily need every single past doctor to show up, but I would have liked to see at least a couple doing some kind of a team-up story, because that's just the tradition at this point. As for the specials, make Ruby just completely, still cast Millie Gibson, but throw the concept of Ruby Sunday out and create a whole different kind of character, a companion with a different kind of storyline. I had this idea for a companion who's got a shitty life. They're not bold or adventurous. They just ask the doctor to, after happening to be in the right place at the right time, save the day one day. They ask the doctor to take them to a better place, like the future utopia. Maybe they grew up on Star Trek. They want to see that future. They ask the doctor to just drop them off there. Instead, the TARDIS does what it does and keeps taking them from shithole to shithole. And Russell T Davies, if you are watching this, please take notes and feel free to steal my ideas. So the companion goes through an arc where they're learning to be brave, learning to step up and do the right thing. And at the end of the day, after toppling yet another dystopian regiment, they fall in love with someone there and decide to stay, realizing they can't expect the doctor to solve all their problems, and they got to stay and work and build their utopia of themselves. So we need a companion with a different kind of story than what we've had ever since the show got rebooted. Just something different.
Yeah.
Like I said, the show has been reinventing itself in ways it doesn't need reinvention, and leaving alone sticking to formula, the things that actually need to be changed and tweaked, in my opinion, as someone who has been watching for a long time. If you're new to the show, great, glad to have you in the fandom. You did say, you're frowning at me, you just said you're new to the show, right?
I started watching at 9, so I guess that qualifies me to be new.
No, well, I mean, that's almost 20 years now, so that's not new.
Well-
I thought you said the Space Babies or this new relaunch was, earlier you said the relaunch was your first introduction to Doctor Who.
I fell off at Peter Capaldi. I
Okay.
fell off
Okay.
because
So you're coming back.
I'm coming back. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm revisiting, and for me, this reboot really put me back in all of the like love that I felt when I was watching Doctor Who when I was like maybe 12.
Well, kudos to you. More
Yeah.
power to you.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
not
you.
criticizing you for liking what's been done, but as someone who stuck around through the Chibnall era, suffered through that in the hopes that the show would get better, it's just been, once again, my hopes were brought up that things would turn around and things would be made better, and they didn't live up to my expectations. And I'm not saying I need the show to be serious science fiction all the time, or you know, I'm not looking for Macbeth here. I just want the show to do something new, and Doctor Who, because it's by its very nature an anthology, basically an anthology show with every episode being a different setting, a different story. It should be character focused. The Doctor and the companion are the only constants in the show. So why are we still doing the same thing that we've been doing for almost 20 years now? Why are we sticking to the same formula? There's been a few deviations here and there, but not a total reinvention. Even the 12 and her fam did not feel like a full realization of the potential there for a completely different dynamic. So I think our time is up. That's the man in the official staff shirt opening the doors. Thank you all for coming. As a reminder, I've been in so many groups over the years. The Order of Gallifrey is upstairs at the TARDIS. We are raising money for the Alzheimer's Foundation of America. We are raffling off a sonic screwdriver and some other Doctor Who prizes to that end. So please come and check us out.